At the time I'm making this video, only 14 players in NBA history have been honored with a statue outside of their arena. And I mean that very specifically, outside of an NBA arena. These are the 14 players listed on the screen, and they had some of the most impressive NBA careers of all time. Now I will say, there has been NBA players who have got statues in other locations. This might be at colleges, practice facilities, and so on, and these are those players listed on the screen. Now for this video specifically, these ones will not count. We're only looking at the 14 players who got a statue outside of an NBA arena. In order to achieve that honor, a player can't simply be an all-star, a superstar, an NBA champion, or a Hall of Famer, but he's got to have an impact on his franchise that was monumental to that organization, and that will be remembered for decades and decades to come. Today, we're looking at each team within the league, as we go step by step, analyzing who deserves a statue outside of arenas. So let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with my choices. So without further ado, let's get into it. First off, the Philadelphia 76ers. Now they already have a statue of Wilt Chamberlain outside of the arena, and that is a fantastic choice, but I also think they need one for Allen Iverson. The answer was one of the most culturally impactful players of all time, and he is absolutely beloved in the city of Philadelphia. It might be controversial to say that a player who never won an NBA championship deserves a statue, but for Iverson, I think we should make an exception. A couple players who might get suggested is Moses Malone and Joel Embiid, but personally, I would hold off on those for now. Now the Milwaukee Bucks. As things currently stand, they have no statues outside of their arena, which is crazy considering their rich history within the NBA. They absolutely need Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who was for a while the NBA's all-time leading scorer. He went to the finals multiple times with the Bucks. He won several MVPs with the organization, and they won the NBA championship in 1971. Another player who needs a statue is this guy once he retires, and that's Giannis. He won the NBA championship and the finals MVP in 2021, and he's put up some absolutely gaudy numbers on his way to a Hall of Fame career. One player who people might suggest is Oscar Robertson. Although he was great, he did join Milwaukee late, and although he won a championship with the organization, Kareem was clearly the best player at the time. Now the Chicago Bulls. They already have a statue of Michael Jordan, but I think they have to have one of Scottie Pippen. Even Michael Jordan said himself that anytime you mention Michael Jordan, you should mention Scottie Pippen. If that's the case, then why are we not seeing a statue outside of Chicago Stadium of Scottie Pippen alongside of Michael Jordan? He helped the team win 6 NBA championships, and as great as Michael Jordan was before Scottie Pippen showed up, the reality is he didn't win a championship until Scottie Pippen became an all-star. A couple guys that people would suggest, but I don't think should get one, is Dennis Rodman and Derrick Rose. Rose was incredible, but he never won a championship and he never reached his full potential before the injuries. And as for Dennis Rodman, although he did contribute to the three-peat, he was a role player during that time, and if he had been present for all 6 championships, that would certainly help his case. Now the Cleveland Cavaliers. Obviously, he's not retired yet, but they absolutely need a statue of LeBron James. He transformed that organization and led them to the NBA Finals multiple times. And he led them to their first championship in franchise history in 2016, as they defeated the greatest regular season team of all time. Players that may be considered but I wouldn't give a statue to would be Kyrie Irving and Mark Price. Now for the Boston Celtics. Now what's crazy is they have one of the richest histories of all time, but they actually don't have any statues outside of their stadium, which is mind-blowing when you look at their rivals, the Los Angeles Lakers, who can't stop adding to their collection. There's a lot of guys that you could consider for statues, but personally, I think you gotta start with Bill Russell and Larry Bird. Those two need their statues as soon as possible. After that, you look at Paul Pierce, Kevin McHale, John Havlicek, Dave Cowens, and Sam Jones. But personally, I would start with Russell and Bird. Now the Los Angeles Clippers. They're one of the newer NBA organizations, and it's been a real struggle for them to have any success, as they're yet to win an NBA championship. For this reason, I don't think they should have any statues outside of their building. Some that might be considered is Chris Paul and Blake Griffin, and although they had a great impact on that organization, it was not a statue-level impact. Then you have the Memphis Grizzlies, and it's more of the same. They're simply yet to have anyone who's worthy of a statue. They had guys like Pau Gasol and Marc Gasol, and currently they have John Morant, but as things stand today, no one has reached that level. Next is the Atlanta Hawks. And they do have one of the greatest scorers in NBA history and one of my favorite dunkers of all time, Dominique Wilkins. He never won a championship, but he did so much for that organization and made them a consistent Eastern Conference contender despite the fact that he didn't have as much talent as many of his peers. Personally, I think they have to add Bob Pettit, as he's one of the greatest power forwards in NBA history and is one of the most underrated players as well. Some might make the point that he did that for the St. Louis Hawks and not the Atlanta Hawks, but still, he was in a Hawks jersey, and I feel like he deserves to be honored for it. Next is the Miami Heat, and soon they will have Dwayne Wade as their lone statue outside of their stadium. A couple others who would be considered, but I wouldn't quite do it, is LeBron James, Chris Bosh, and Shaquille O'Neal. They had great careers with Miami, and sure, they won championships, but a lot of guys have won championships and don't have statues. And usually, I think you have to be a cornerstone piece for that franchise for many, many years and have the hardware in order to get a statue. And these guys don't exactly meet all those criterias. So I do think Wade should be the only statue outside of their stadium as things currently stand. Next is the Charlotte Hornets. And I simply don't think they've had anyone who's worthy of a statue. Some players they might bring up are Chris Paul, Alonzo Mourning, but without any championships or MVPs, I simply don't see their legacies as statue-worthy. Then you have the Utah Jazz, who already have John Stockton and Karl Malone, and personally, I think that's all they should have at the moment. Some people might consider Pistol Pete Maravich or Adrian Dantley, but I think it would be pushing it for either of those guys. Next is the Sacramento Kings. They simply don't have the most successful history. Some that people might consider, but I don't think are good enough, are Oscar Robertson and Chris Webber. Next is the New York Knicks. Personally, I think Willis Reed and Walt Frazier absolutely need to have a statue outside of Madison Square Garden. These stars helped the Knicks win 2 NBA championships in the 1970s. And specifically, in the case of Willis Reed, his famous comeback from an injury is a monumental moment within the Knicks organization. Some that people might suggest, but I don't think make the cut, are Patrick Ewing, Carmelo Anthony, Bernard King, and Dave DeBusschere. Then you have the statue-happy Los Angeles Lakers. They already have George Mikan, Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, Kobe Bryant, and Shaquille O'Neal. Now I will say this, because of how many statues the Lakers have outside of Crypto Arena, I think the bar is set a little bit lower for them. So a couple players that I think need a statue are actually James Worthy and LeBron James. James Worthy was the third head of the three-headed monster in the 1980s, which are known as the Showtime Lakers. Big Game James was absolutely pivotal for several of the Lakers' championship teams. And he was even the Finals MVP in 1988, as he had one of the greatest Game 7 performances of all time. The legacy of Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and even the Lakers organization isn't nearly as impressive today if James Worthy was not in a purple and gold jersey during the 1980s. The other guy is LeBron James, and he did lead the Lakers to win an NBA championship in 2020. And he's actually spent quite a few years with the team at this point. And he also became the league's all-time leading scorer while he was wearing a purple and gold jersey. For his contribution, and considering the fact that the Lakers have a lower bar, I do think James should get a statue one day outside of Crypto Arena. Players that might be considered but don't make the cut are Pau Gasol and Anthony Davis. Then we have the Orlando Magic. And personally, seeing that they haven't won a championship banner, and seeing that there haven't been many great players to spend the entirety of their career with that franchise, I don't think they have a statue-worthy player. Some guys that might be considered are Shaquille O'Neal, Penny Hardaway, Dwight Howard, and Tracy McGrady, but I don't think any of them make the cut. I'll be doing part 2 and tackling the other 15 organizations within the league in an upcoming video, so stay tuned for that one. So now that you've heard the first 15 teams within the league, what's your opinion? Who deserves a statue and who doesn't? I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks for watching as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more basketball content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.